ridiculous. It's kind of like, I don't know, Vatican people or something, want to withhold information. Doesn't sound very honest to me. Anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Even though we know she's in the building.
In truth, there's probably going to be more people needing this more expensive service soon since the district attorney's office has been cut by $18 million. That's not very sustainable or equitable. How are the county's second poorest people going to be able to afford this, Joel? But these 5 increased fees are actually being met in the middle of cost recovery. $29,000 more for the county corporation, while losing $29,000. But at this point, I almost want to say, let's strike the county board policy B29 about full cost recovery. Because that's what you guys do when you like a pet project that costs the taxpayers big time for things they don't want or need. County feels like fairness and equity is missing in that regard. Or maybe in order to stay positive, we should be celebrating being met in the middle. Too bad party decorations have also gone up, so the party is not affordable either. Have you seen the cost of penny outings? How can the certification of documents skyrocket to over double the price? And the certification of digital photographs is going up by almost triple the price. How can that be justified? Only the printing and photocopying increase makes sense. And it comes across completely unethical to charge a family-requested autopsy at almost $6,000, upping the price by almost double to deal with a loved one's death. Or how can the cost of a photo Microsoft stroke for a meeting in 30 minutes cost over $43? That's outrageous. By return, the county is becoming a racket. In fact, eliminating such unnecessary spending may make way for eliminating high fees, such as these increased fees. Wouldn't it be better to help a family whose loved one has died from mysterious circumstances, rather than help a union who engages in political activities, such as trying to create more taxes on those poor families? And if it's people of color dying at the fastest rate, then these fees are automatically inequitable and racist. And how dare you interrupt my lunch for this racist stuff? It's a quesadilla if you're curious. Lots of hot sauce with organic potatoes that I grew myself. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of these racist fees. How scary. I'm tired.
Tara's in the building. Why isn't she in the meeting?
That's your first warning for disrupting the meeting.
Good afternoon, board. I'm Kathleen with it. From a health promotion policy perspective, it is not possible to learn without identifying contributing variables to any of the problems that you're dealing with. And a problem that has continued since Prop 64 allowed the commercialization of marijuana was the ability to test easily and inexpensively for whether or not the driver was driving under the influence of marijuana. The medical examiner's office has warned visitors that they could wait up to 6 months for the office to determine the cause of death and issue a final report. They have a backlog that remains, and although it is supposed to be decreasing based on adding staff, but that was a problem with the overdose epidemic. When that came about, they could not keep up with those cases. That surge in fatal drug overdoses over recent years was a contributing factor, mainly from fentanyl. But just teaching people about fentanyl is not going to get at the problem. You need to figure out where it's coming from, and that would be mainly from across the border. And why you have not made efforts to interrupt that flow of fentanyl is just defies description, and it's created a logjam. From 2018 to 2022, the number of deaths from drugs or alcohol in San Diego County more than doubled, from 578 to 1,300, with roughly 2/3 of those caused by fentanyl overdose. And yet, the problems that are associated and harmful effects from the high THC marijuana that the county continues to support that industry.
Still Brian Rumbaugh. So, regarding general purpose revenue, medical fees, additional fees that are being boosted. talk about efficiency. I heard Paul on the phone there talking about really, price per copy of a Xerox machine. Let's talk about efficiency. Let's talk about how it is that we as Americans can operate in an efficient way. We live in a highly connected world. Why is it that we need to burden you guys with? Are you a mind reader, Jim? You're not. Hey, I appreciate you actually speaking to that. I wouldn't expect you, sir, to be a mind reader. Okay? Your constituents, I got to tell you something. They have to put a lot of faith in you guys to essentially be able to somehow understand what it is that tears at their heart, what it is that keeps them up at night. All these people that are watching as their disposable income goes to the tank. We can talk about price inflation. We can talk about everything that's killing the middle class, which is what America, that was the chance. The chance was to not live under an oppressive regime, essentially a cartel. But yeah, I'm glad you looked up at me, ma'am. Supervisor
She did?
Nora, chair.
Because she's a cartel.
Okay, I haven't come here to disrespect you. I'm trying to teach you guys a little bit of a better way. Because I got to tell you something. Us playing the same strings on the guitar year after year and kicking the can down the road, we're treating treating the symptoms, not the problem. We've got an unengaged society. They are relying upon you guys to solve all their problems. It needs to stop.
Thank you, and Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes
Job.
comment on this item. And Chairwoman Vargas has indicated that she'll make a motion on this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Desmond. With that, please vote. Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting no. Next item for discussion is item 21, administrative items.
fuck
Second
is Tara?
consideration and adoption of an ordinance amending Article 20 of the San Diego County Administrative Code relating to city
We saw Tara Lawson
medical fees.
back in the building.
Now, please to the individuals that requested to speak on this item. We have 7 requests.
But she decided not to
4 in
have
person,
the
3
meeting.
requesting to speak by phone. We did not receive any comments on this
Your
item.
representatives.
We'll begin with the in-person speakers. All speakers are in opposition. As your name is called, please come forward. Elected by Mark, Allegedly Audra, Consuelo, and Ryan Rumbaugh. Anthony, please come forward.
I'll go, you can turn it.
You ready?
It's fine, yeah. Person uses the name Audra, is that good, Andrew? I thought I was trying to do my hair like yours. Maybe you could grow yours a half out too. That would be cool, and then you could dye it. That'd be fun. We could be Twinkies. Yeah, medical, for emergency services fees, it's kind of, these people are engaged in also vaccinating people. And it's like we don't want to acknowledge what's really going on with that. Instead, we're like, we're providing you a service. And people are being injured by these. Jim, are you injured by a vaccine? Is your shoulder part of that? Could be, right? You don't know, right? But if you think about it, wouldn't that be disturbing if that was why it happened? And wouldn't you want to not have other people suffer if you knew that that was why you're suffering? That would be the hope, right? Is that, if something happens to you, then you can voice that to others to say there is a concern. And people have been dying. And they'll even test new things and all of this stuff, and people die just from the testing. Like a child and like an older individual wound up dying from things that they're testing as far as vaccines go. And we are the test subject. And so when we pay people to provide an emergency medical service, and they're going around and doing these vaccinations, which are genocide shots, it's sad because I don't think that they should get more money either, just like the medical examiner that is not acknowledging these things. And I've interviewed some that have, and they're disturbed by what they're finding. And so when people can actually be injured by it or die, that should be something that is a concern to all people and that we acknowledge. Because why should some people have to suffer because we're telling them it's good? Right, Jim? I mean, like, I would hope that you could pay it forward to others so that they don't have to experience the same.
Nora and Tara are both innocent. Shouldn't there be people here to listen?
You're gonna just stop. Stop.
All right, still Brian Rumbaugh. So here we go. We're
Don't get
pretty much
kicked out.
at the ditto, but this one is certainly instead of GDR, it's 5,000. If nobody wants to have
authorized to give
any
warnings?
sort of,
Evidently, so I wouldn't.
Did it because she wasn't
I know, but
It wasn't even issued by Nora, that was
I know, but still,
She said I didn't think you could give warnings.
don't let him do it again.
I mean, there was one time when I got cut off here short, where literally those CAL FIRE guys, which is essentially just another, for lack of a better term, they don't understand who it is that they work for. They know who they work for, they know who signs the check.
You authorized?
Stop it.
But
Stop it.
what I will say is, when their higher up tells them to just, your job is to sweep members on this fire line.
Did you
that
switch the
fails,
mic?
by the way, as opposed to manning up and fighting a fire, saving people's homes that could be saved. Okay, we live in a society where we're all really, we're very short-sighted. I have witnessed a fucking race to the bottom here. For the last several years. For the last 12 years, 15 years. I chose to seek truth a long time ago. Okay? That was my decision. You know, what I will say is that we, once again, like I've said numerous times, we need to set an example for the world in America. Because this is really what, everything that you guys grew up on, this American exceptionalism, you know, we're the toughest guy in the neighborhood, right? Yeah, right. Two-time defending World War champs, right? No, I'm not saying I agree with that, man, because I've read some books that they talk about really the secret destiny of America. To usher in, do you know the symbol of the Pentagon? Probably not. I mean, you know what it looks like, right?
Thank you. Speaker, please.
Mark, so, medical services, basically, that's probably like somebody taking an ambulance. We pay a lot of taxes. People need to see this video, The Corporation Nation, by Clint Richardson. He actually goes on the .gov website and shows you how what they've done for ever since 1913 is they've been investing the tax dollars of our parents, ourselves, our grandparents, some of you, maybe your great-grandparents. And they've invested in businesses. You even see it every morning. This morning, they were doing proclamations. That is this regional government, this regional part of this subsidiary corporation, partnering with NGOs, and it's a scam. It's not constitutional. It was never in the Constitution. There's reasons for that I'll go into later in other agenda items. But so you need to see that because they have literally 40 times as much money in a separate budget, up to 40 times as much, depending upon what region you're in. In the comprehensive annual financial report, they're not going to tell you about it. They're not going to share it with you. And the fact that we're paying so much taxes, well, when you pay like 9%, what, 8.75, it's basically 9% tax on every item you buy except food, unless it's at a restaurant, and that goes off into infinity. Imagine, like, and you pay a quarter to a third just of your taxes, period, of your money. So, I mean, we're really paying like over 50% tax. People think we're better than Europe. We're not. We're pretty much totally socialist communist at this point, and it's a total scam. You also need to see this video on our banking system from literally from 6 minutes and 40 seconds to 24 minutes. It'll explain to you the scam that's going on causing inflation.
Tara!
That's your first warning, Audra.
Okay, so I was just, gosh, I wish there was a double camera like Oliver Twist. Mary D has requested over and over and over again. Mujer Consuelo, you should have seen the face of Nora. She was really triggered when Bryant mentioned the cartel, she instantly like looked up. It was ready to be offended, but no. Anyways, yeah, just a reminder, there are two kinds of people left on the planet. The ones who are like, govern me harder, daddy, and then the other ones who are like, hey, what's going on? Let's do something about it. Hopefully the majority wake up and see, in fact, what's going on with our hard-earned tax dollars and the empty words of the politicians. Politicians, lawyers, same difference. Let's see. And gosh, if they're both, híjole. Let's see. Oh, somebody asked me, someone needs to ask Andrew Potter if he is trying to act sexy with his assertive, domineering tone. By the way, brothers, stay in your lane. You're not one to call people on like 1, 2 warnings. Like, you come on, don't do that. That's not okay. Another thing, let's see. ¿Qué más? I have one more thing. Okay, I lost it. I'm done.
Thank you. We'll now hear from individuals who requested
What about
to speak by phone. We'll start with the first caller.
Oh, you did. Usually you're the last one.
Paul Bowe, in view of the uncertain economy, inflation, taxes, long-standing businesses fleeing the state, and people strained to the max, you need to phase an approach. Do you do this? I suggest option B. Otherwise, people may be unwilling to use ambulance services in the backcountry, period. If you phase in these fee increases all at once, I would expect a slightly increased death rate there as well. For instance, there are usually 3 personnel aboard the ambulances. Now, if each one gets $87 more for your charge, that's $260. Now, I could afford that, but some people in the backcountry have kind of lower income, and this would really be a disaster. I think, however, that the whole fee schedule should be amended, so I suggest you hold off on this. I mean, people are different, you know, you can't just jack up the whole fee schedule. I mean, you know, this is, I'm in the middle of it, and I mean, you're raising some fees for some people by like $400. I mean, but they can't afford that, and when you raise fees like into 10,000, 100,000 for developers just to get a permit, I mean, they're going to build the houses you want. So, you know, you gotta
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hey, it's the truth, the elusive thing everyone should be looking for. We got 8 fee changes plus 1 new fee. Option A, full cost recovery would be $2.3 million for the county corporation. Option B, the slow down cost, full cost recovery would be $1.6 million for the county corporation. Either way, they're going to be raking in millions. But regular people, who can afford to be helped at these rate of fee increases constant? I mean, how many more items do we have about fee increases today and every 2 weeks, right? I mean, soon it's going to be cheaper to go to Mexico for all of the stores. Even ambulance rides are going to be cheaper. Get one delivered from Mexico. We're calling Uber. Mexico, can you take us to the hospital? In fact, turn around, go back. We're going to cross the border for hours because that's going to be cheaper to get help there too. In fact, I was just watching a Garrett Leonard video about medical tourism in Tijuana, Mexico. And I may bring that up again if I have enough time with my 60 seconds, because there's actually a funny point about that. But that video how much of a scam the insurance bracket is. Because people like me, I'm definitely gonna have to hesitate to get medical care. And I say I would have to because I currently would never go to a hospital for care. I'd have to be missing an arm, and then I have to think about it. She was money. These county fees are not gonna help somebody like me. This is, you know, like I said, you want to talk about inequity? Increasing the fees for that directly will trickle down to the cost of healthcare is the definition of inequity. And I actually want to know Nora's opinion about these fees. She's been pretty mum about all these fee increases. Does she expect silent consent for things to pass without a fee? You can't just mute the effect of these fees on our lives. It can't be passive. We can't. It's almost like being deaf. You've got to speak up. Speak up. Do you have no opinion? How many times did Andrew have to speak up for you? Yeah.
Thank you. Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item. The Chairwoman has indicated she will make a motion on this item. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
It's not going to pass. Oh. Passes unanimously.
Okay, I see you pressing the I button. I will note that in the record. Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
That is shocking.
Next item for discussion is item 22, exploring a pilot program for alternative transportation options for individuals released from the Vista Detention Facility. We'll begin with the public speakers on this item. We have 7 requests to speak, 4 in person and 3 requesting to speak by phone. We also received 1 e-comment in favor. For any members of the public that requested to speak on item 22 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We begin with the in-person speakers. All speakers are in opposition.
Oh my
by
God.
Board Mark, allegedly Audra Consuelo, and Ryan Rumba. What's your name?
I
Step
got
forward.
this.
2 minutes to address the board.
Alright, so I was actually just looking on my Google's, my smartphone, you know, these things are, you know, kind of, we live in a connected society, I've already talked to you guys about that. I looked up the word transportation, it's kind of interesting. Did you guys all know that the historical definition of the word transportation is the action of practice or of transporting convicts to a penal colony? A penal colony, okay, meaning let's just call it a prison. Okay? We live in a society in America where we have a very high percentage of our young men and women, unfortunately, that kind of steer the wrong direction and they end up being incarcerated. You know, what I will say is, we can talk about, you know, giving them a free taxi ride or a free airplane ticket, that type of thing. But really what we want to do is we need to fix broken individuals. We need to give them a sense of hope. Okay, when I talk to everybody around, okay, I don't know how much talking to your constituents you people actually do, but everybody that I talk to, they are really scared for themselves. A lot of times it's for their retirement. A lot of times if they work for the county, it's, I got 2 years left, that type of thing, until their pseudo-retirement, you know, comes in, but they're contracted for dollars, okay? But what I will say is, giving these people hope that really in the future we're gonna go about things solving our problems in a different way, governing ourselves. Because in America, the more work that the citizens do, the less that you guys need to worry about. Okay? And when I sit through one of these meetings, even right now, I bet you 90% of the people in here are on county payroll. I have nothing against them, okay? Do they work hard? You know, jury's still out. Okay? What I will say is that this way is not working.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Let's see, okay, exploring a pilot program for alternative transportation options. Exploring a pilot, okay, exploring on the people's dime as usual. So just like everything else this government does, local and federal, it's backwards, because the root of all problems is in fact government. And when people will wake up to that, unplugging their media and their alternative, even alternative news, their mainstream media news, being programmed, getting fed what to believe. The fact is that every single thing that government does is in fact creating all this chaos, all these problems, all this need for things like alternative transportation and behavioral health and health. Like instead of, like, this is how our government is. During the lockdowns, they closed the gyms, but they didn't close McDonald's. They closed the freaking gyms. They closed the beaches. They X'd out benches, but they didn't close fast food.
Or the strip
Like,
clubs.
this is how it all, like, this is it. And then your only options are, like, what they offer, which was at the time, masks or shots. You know, as I mentioned before, it's never anything like, hey, let's, let's get to some, past life trauma. How is your household? How is your upbringing? No, let's just put them on synthetic drugs. Let's have big pharma freaking profit and call it a day. It's always the answer. Unfortunately, government never has the correct answer. And until the people wake up and stop being spectators, and start getting involved, is when it's gonna change. Thank you.
Consuelo.
Mark or Audra?
They didn't close the strip clubs.
They didn't close the strip clubs. It's legit. No, I don't like strip. Never mind that.
Sorry.
There are options for transportation. First of all, the Rosa and Corey video, you can see it on YouTube. Rosa and Corey is Koire, part 1. That'll bring up the longer title, Beneath the Mask, or something like that. It's before the New Hampshire legislature. She's the highest authority on this. So, actually, she mentions in the video, and I'm sorry, I just didn't have time to hold up the title here for you, that's why I told you. But, or the minute that it's at. But in sections, in part 2, I believe, she talks about how transportation has been mixed with housing for the first time ever. And this is not an accident, it's a total Agenda 21, UN Agenda 21 scam, which is against our national sovereignty completely and totally, and is taking over not only our country, but countries globally, with regional governance like this here. And so if you look up UN Wildlands Map, or actually UN Agenda 21 Wildlands Map. Look that up, search that on Google, and it'll show you the UN map from them. With it's color-coded, it shows the areas you won't be allowed in, Americans will not be allowed in. And it's a lot of the United States, and that's their goal. And in fact, what I was talking about a couple of agenda items back was 3030, California. It's like, we're one of the most communist states in the country, just leading the way. We're right, except for Canada, which isn't our country. I mean, we're like third in line for China. And it's not a joke, it's not funny, and you guys need to see it, and people need to peacefully get together and stop because our country is being taken over, and it wouldn't be if people knew what was going on.
My person's name means storm. It does, Andrew. Don't give me that look. Or look at your phone. Whatever. This is interesting because I haven't had the joy of going to the Vista Detention Center. But Las Colinas has been where they take me. And just find it's not really equitable to only do it for Vista. Why are we not looking at all of them? And then I thought, why don't you just contact Damaris Express? They love to transport human beings, not only from the border, but they take them to the airport from hotels that these illegals are staying at. and they're supposedly really good at it, but they do reside, most of them, in Mexico, and they're not really legally allowed to drive here, but they do anyway, and they just love it. So I mean, I'm sure we could give them some more money to transport these individuals. But it's funny when you go to jail, when you have money, you know what they do is they give you a card, like a debit card or like a whatever. You can go and take out your money from there, so then they can track and trace where you spend your money. It's so cool, right? It's cool. But yeah, I just feel like it's not very equitable if you're only doing it from Vista. I mean, there's many other jails, right? And, you know, so again, I would probably contact Damaris. They're very good at trafficking human beings. They've been doing it for quite some time. It's a woman-owned company, and they traffic children, and they don't even care. It's interesting. So, yeah, definitely reach out to them because they're good at what they do. And yeah, maybe I'll go visit Vista sometime. Who knows? We'll see what happens here, right? I guess I need to be more in that area to go to that jail. But yeah, it's good. It's good times. Andrew, I would really like you to grow your hair out on one side.
Here now we're here from the individuals that requested to speak their homes, so at first line.
This is how many people in San Diego care.
Most of them know they work here.
Okay, 22. Oh yes, thank you for bringing this up. It's shameful that transportation relief fees. Yes, there's a JDATA on the MTS, which probably misrepresents San Diego as well because it's so dirty and disgusting. But the people who just got released from prison and are hopeful, I hope, of the future and possibilities, they need and deserve a lot better than this. Better transportation might also lower the recidivism rate a bit by making releasees less frustrated when they can't navigate the bus system in a day, which the bus system, I mean, I've tried it, and it can be very slow and confused. But, I mean, maybe they can't navigate it and they get frustrated, start running low on funds, and resort to petty theft. So, again, you know, I think this is a great idea. And, I mean, what would be a greater idea is, as suggested, you know, taking better care, making sure that people don't end up in the jail in the first.
Thank you. Now we're here from the next caller.
Hey, Shirt's here to push more buttons than Joel. Well, I want to thank Brian for that definition of the word transportation. Because the public transportation does make one feel like a convict. And speaking of, I've noticed that a good portion of those riding public transit, particularly the trolley, are of a criminal element. Well, this item proves I'm right. But they're not the only ones who have trouble operating the public transit system. Everyone does. And yet, this is the inefficient and unsafe garbage that Sandag pushes on everyone. How many buses are leaving from the Vista jail? And how many times a day? Are inmates provided a timetable map of the applicable bus? Pretty easy to order them from NCTD or just print a schedule out from online. But if someone is provided the information and decides to reoffend, that's their problem. The taxpayers already paid to hold them in jail, then they pay again for their transportation, and now even a specialized tailored transportation option. Do regular people doing the right thing in life get this type of transportation aid? Nope. So until this junk public transit system is fixed for all people, not just people who are detained at the detention facility, No to inequitably helping only certain people with this item. No to every taxpayer paying for any county orchestrated transportation service. No to every taxpayer paying for any partnership with any community-based transportation company. And most of all, no to every taxpayer in the entire state paying for any socialist Medi-Cal transportation benefit with managed care Medi-Cal plans for people in jail. These ideas are fiscally unsustainable, irresponsible, and inequitable. Any paid transportation service for people exiting the Vista Detention Facility needs to be reimbursed by the person requesting the service. They're no better than anyone else walking the streets in need of transportation services too. However, the program idea I can support is the idea of having volunteers who are formerly incarcerated offering to drive people to their pre-planned new locations on their own dime.
Thank you, and Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item. Through the chair, we'll turn it over to Supervisor Desmond since you brought forward this item.
Thank you, Andrew and Chair. This item is bringing it forward today to explore a pilot program to provide alternative transportation for people released from the Vista Detention Facility. Vista Detention Facility is actually where my North County office is, also up there. But it's a neighborhood area, and currently those who are released from the Vista jail, they receive a one-day public transit pass. So I can only imagine how daunting it is for someone who just got out of jail to navigate the public transit system. My office, we've heard from many of the Vista elected officials that some of the individuals when they're released, they're not sure where they're going to go. They end up walking around the streets of Vista. And the community has asked for some kind of alternative transportation plan. This board letter asked staff to explore a potential pilot program that could provide better transportation services for people being released from the Vista jail. Imagine, maybe a mentor or somebody else who had previously was in jail and got out and was able to survive and thrive. They could provide transportation or a ride. They'd have a captive audience or make a connection or maybe even change a life or something for the better. But I think there's a strong potential to include this program in our alternatives to incarceration efforts to help reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for both the formerly incarcerated population and for the Vista community. So this is just no money involved, just asking staff to come back with a plan. For that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Through the chair, Supervisor Montgomery Stout.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing this item, Supervisor Desmond. Just trying to reduce those barriers for folks is good, especially when they're re-entering society. I wanted to ask if you would entertain maybe a pilot that may be looking at some additional detention facilities that may not have the same access. Downtown has access, but Otay Mesa may, or Mesa may not. Is that something?
Yeah, well, that's actually kind of what I'm hoping. If we do a pilot at a site that would grow, then we could then further into other sites. But I'd be fine if to look at other sites. Do you have one in particular? I don't want to just say all of them.
I think what I'm thinking about is when it comes time for the board to decide an actual pilot program to move forward with this detention, but in the assessment phase, look at other detention facilities and see if, based on the geography, that the need would be there, even if there's not a pilot program there.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
The chairwoman has a question. How do we include other facilities as have an assessment, such as South County an assessment involved?
Just in the assessment part, maybe not in the.
I'm hoping it starts not only intentions, not excluding, but
Sure.
Start somewhere, and then if it kinks out or whatever, make it better if we can. Hopefully, it's a countywide effort.
Got it.
Once it gets going. So.
Okay, that makes sense. I will second the motion and thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, a second by Supervisor Montgomery Stout. Please vote. Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye. Next item for discussion is item 25, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Diego opposing State Farm and other insurance companies abandoning homeowners, renters, and small businesses and state efforts to modernize regulations. To begin with the speakers on this item, we have 8 requests to speak, 4 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. We also received 1 comment in opposition. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. For those that requested to speak on item 25 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll start with the speakers in favor of this item, by Fort Martin and Consuelo. Will be followed by the speakers in opposition, Audra and Brian Romo. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Please state your name for the audio record.
So, Consuelo. Let's see, they are, this is another thing that is a part of their game plan, and of course, we get what their goal is, and that is total reliance and dependency on government. Mortgage companies will not risk their money to people who have no homeowners insurance. My husband and I are now a part of the demographic being penalized for being irresponsible, never being late with payment. Yet our policy was still dropped. Sucks. But as I mentioned, it's all a part of the plan. UN Agenda 21 coming to a county near you, guaranteed. Yeah, so it wasn't State Farm, but another Midwest company. And just a reminder to everyone, it's all a part of it, everything. And the best part of it is, because there is a silver lining, is that I got to speak to so many people, and they are all, every person that I spoke to, helping us look for a new carrier. We're all in line with getting that something major is happening with government, all governments, including their county's government, wherever they were at. And it's refreshing, because there's something that is called the Great Awakening, and I'm sure you've all heard of it, and people are waking up. And it's kind of like, we're here. And I hope that, I hope that the people who are listening, don't fear, because there's something called karma, and there's a karmic reaction. For every action, there's a reaction. So for all the bad choices and policies that these people push, they'll get theirs.
Yes.
Next speaker, please.
Nailed it.
Mark, well, this is a really rare event. I'm actually for this. You're doing something good. However, not because you want to help people, but because you want more control. Now, why is this happening, of course? I mean, why are there fires everywhere? I mean, wood doesn't burn, and dry wood does not burn until 660 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and it's a statistical fact. I can't remember I think it was Smithsonian Magazine that cited a study. 85% of the fires are caused by people. Now, why are some people doing this? And who has an interest in doing that? And I'll tell you who. The UN and the WEF, who want global governance. And they openly say that they want us in our city centers. They don't want people living in the rural areas. They're working with regional governments like this. Soon they'll be doing things like not paving the roads out in the rural areas. Well, how will that decrease your values of your... And you need to see these videos to understand this. Here's Rosa Corey's video. You can see it from 3 minutes and 30 seconds on YouTube. Goodbye American Sovereignty. Trump signed it, Biden did not rescind it, and it handed control over our trade and immigration to a foreign, unelected council that we have only one American member on, not elected at all. And furthermore, the president and the Congress don't even have the authority to sign over their powers like this. So it's just unbelievable that this happened. All the videos I hold up, they're always not right or left. They're things either side would be pissed about if they checked it out. Here's Klaus Schwab, literally talking about the things he wants to do to our Western civilization. You need to stop this now. This is why all these things are happening in the country.
Yay. Next speaker, please.
All right, still Brian Rumba. Hey, Jim, on that last item, man, I really want to tell you I like what came out of your mouth. I like the mentor, talking about that. You know what I'm saying? ultimately, we don't want people to reoffend, people that are being incarcerated or obviously having to get reassimilated into society. So, with regarding this State Farm thing, what I can tell you is this: I've been kind of watching, learning about a mutually owned company versus a shareholder. This is a mutual company, State Farm, that you guys singled out on this insurance company. I did speak to you earlier about really pretty much the insurance adjuster that was down to make a $40,000 that a single guy like me could have fixed that fucking house, and instead made it into a $350,000 job where the neighbors had to sit there with fences around the property, dark at night, for a year, so one insurance adjuster could pat his pocket and a crooked contractor could come up. Okay, we're dealing with principalities, people, of evil, not being our brother's keeper. It needs to change. Okay, I understand all of this about the homeowners. When people are forced into this money-printed society, I can tell you people in the real estate market, man, I honestly, I laugh. And I'm not trying to single them out. They're just making money the easy way. We live in a society where it's minimal input, maximum output. I've already talked to you guys about that. That's going to have to change moving forward. It has to. This is unsustainable. And yeah, these people that are owning homes, they are being attacked. You can't have two incomes supporting that anymore. Next year.
A person uses the name Audra. Well, insurance is totally a scam. And it's like, this is welcome to you'll own nothing and be happy. That's where they're sending us. Because it's like, I mean, if you want to own anything, it's like you got to pay insurance on that. And then if you make a claim against it, they're like, we're going to drop you. Well, what's the point of having you in the first place? Right? It's really sad to think about just all of these things that we've been indoctrinated to do. Like, you need to get insurance. You need to do this. It doesn't really help, no. Especially when it's like all these people lost stuff in the flood. Most of them couldn't even have flood insurance. So it's a total scam when it's like you continue to pay for stuff and act like it's going to replenish whatever you lose, and that's not the facts. It's not the case. And it's just like, but we just sit here and allow it. We allow these things to go on instead of going like, why is this happening? It's a total scam. They're just taking money and putting it in their pockets, and then when you really need help, they're like, we can't help you here. You didn't get the full insurance that you should have, even though you thought that's what it was. It's not. And that's too bad. Now you don't have anything left. But that's what the plan is. The plan isn't for people to be thriving. It's for them to be surviving, Nora. That's what's so sad, is that people are barely surviving. But you guys sit up here on your dais and you're doing great, right? You're doing so good. It's like you don't have to worry about the same things that all these other people do that come up here and try and beg you for help. That's why you should be brought down to their level so you can understand. And it shouldn't have to be that way, but it is, because unless you've been homeless, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what these people go through. Unless you've lost everything, you don't know what it's like. So you don't know what they're going through. And it's just really sad to think about all of these things is all to enslave the people, and it's never to make anything better. It's all by design and intentional. And you guys are complicit in that.
Kevin Stevenson.
Oh,
I would like to state that I am in support of this item. State Farm should not be dropping clients. Fires are getting worse.
Kevin is the new Karen.
People at a time when fire insurance is needed more than ever is really disgusting. I would like to point out that anyone who claims that this is because of California regulations is completely full of it. Because take a look at Florida. Right-wing government, no regulation, well, unless you're gay or trans and you're a teacher, then they'll regulate your entire existence. But as far as corporations, no, they just let them do whatever they want. Notice how insurance companies are pulling out of Florida too, because hurricanes in Florida are getting worse. That is because of climate change. So yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're a more democratic government like California or Hungary, Florida. You know, it doesn't matter. These corporations, they don't care about people. They don't care about protecting houses. They don't care about protecting people. Now, let's say it should be the responsibility of the government, but then marketed conspiracy buddies over there would go, you don't understand, communist, Marxist, and then incite a bunch of bogus YouTube videos from conspiracy-driven wackos like him. No. The problem is that private corporations don't give a fuck about you, to be frank, and we need to rein them in. We need to tell them, no. You are going to protect people, and we're going to find someone else who will. What is this whale saying now?
F you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you. His mom let him out of the dungeon.
All about, actually, Kevin, the fire risk in California is not really getting worse. If you look at the Cal Fire statistics for the last several years, there have been about 7,000 fires each year. So, you know, I don't know why there have been in the states that the insurance companies seem to be doing something kind of political rather than actually focusing on actual risk. I mean, to me, this resolution is more grandstanding on the matter the insurance commissioner is already working on. I believe the resolution actually mentions
I think 3.
And the title of the resolution does not hint that the fix is already in the works, but simply says we oppose.
27 and 28, all 3 even non-agenda.
I also see that the equity statement mentions climate change, but it's nowhere in the resolution. So again, I'm arguing against climate change doing all this. You know, it's like Brian said, you know, you have insurance, and I mean, I'll actually, number of speakers, I think, mentioned, you know, what's insurance for? You insure your house, and the insurance.
Truth, what we've got is more political theater, because what does State Farm or
Do you
any
think you
other
could do me a
insurance
favor and
care?
hold these
This
off
board
one after
votes
another for about 2 or
anything
3
they do.
seconds each
That
while
World
I say
Economic
this?
Forum
On the 22nd, but one coming up. This is all
But I'm sure this is really good for the
then
state,
Trump
throw
is
in
the
the county
whistleblower
resolution
in the
pile,
government
and then mail the copies
Congress
to the company.
congressional meeting
And
about
nothing will
trafficking
change
kids,
because the crazy
and then
state
it's a
and
whole
the
bunch of
local
things
county
about the
city
immigrants
level
committing
are the ones who
crimes,
cause the
one
things
after
to
another.
begin with. Why would insurance
Might be
companies
hard
want
with
to
my
protect their
cane,
homes
but
from fire
so it might be kind of hard with me. I have to look. I mean, we'll see what I can do.
Because
And
of
why
your
would a company
cane?
want to insure a home that
Okay.
place where the city government refuses to fix storm infrastructure, which leads to predictable
Let me
flooding?
see what I can
And let
do.
me ask you,
I'll try
fire,
to do it.
let's see
She's
if that
got
is,
one
and that's
read
all
all
the
that.
state
What about
promotes
Consuelo?
and the county
I was
promotes,
asking her.
gonna cause
She's
more fire.
working
Why
on
would
a
they
thing.
insure
She'll
that?
do it.
Okay.
And how about the dam infrastructure full of cracks that's gonna lead to even worse flooding if repairs don't begin soon? The state's got a lot more to fix than just insurance policy regulations, and so no, Commissioner Laura and Governor Newsom should not be committed for anything. They have created these problems. And Tara, anytime you're complaining about the algorithm that insurance companies own, yet you don't seem to realize that this is exactly the same type of data control that you engage in here at the county. And you see it's not transparent either way. So I'm going to request that the county stay out of both the real estate market and the private insurance market. Otherwise,
all the agenda items before they go to the 6 p.m. or right? So even closed session and non-agenda.
From my understanding,
Closed session may be moved to tomorrow. Okay, okay. But 27 and then non-agenda will go before. Okay, yeah, thank you.
If your team very consistently can't even prepare grammatically correct point letters, then how are you gonna write better policies? Absolute delusion, just like one of the previous callers who sounded like they need to be 5150, quite frankly.
Kevin?
And they left at language. Thank you very much. No to the time. Political.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item. We'll turn it over to Vice Chair Loster Raymond, who brought this item forward.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I just thought if she won't, I can.
Okay, thank you. Brought this item for today because so many of the people in my district they have faced this challenge that I think many people share of having their insurance canceled. And it kept calling it. Then one member of my staff also got a call from State Farm canceling his
Oh, bummer.
We are facing a crisis, I think, across California, but particularly in our county, of people who've been in their homes for a long time, have been paying their home insurance policies, also renters who have to get rental insurance. We've got business owners who have seen policies canceled. In my district, we have had over 880 policy cancellations. This is an issue that affects all of us, from Terrasana all the way up to Vista, down to Spring Valley. So it's, I think, a countywide issue. Unfortunately, big picture, we don't have any transparency and visibility into why these policies are being canceled. We cannot see what algorithms or what calculations these insurance companies are using to decide who gets redlined and who does not get redlined. So there's no transparency, there's no accountability. I've had a number of homeowners reach out who have invested quite significantly in fire hardening, in building with more fire sustainable materials, in creating defensible space around their buildings, around their homes, using the kind of drought resistant and fire resistant plants that have been recommended by our fire department. And it seems that none of that has been taken into account. So it's just sort of blanket zip code redlining around insurance policies. It's impacting everyone, I think disproportionately impacting seniors who have built up equity in their homes and rely on their homes to retire and to live out the rest of their lives. And sometimes they're seeing their policies increase by 200 or 300% really overnight. Massive increases, or not being able to get insurance at all. I've spoken with a number of realtors who have had trouble closing deals, trying to sell homes, and the deal fell through because the person could not actually get insurance. And so we're, given the crisis we're in around housing and housing affordability, is quite literally fuel to the fire of our housing affordability crisis, when people who are barely managing to try to find a place to live can't even purchase a home because they can't get the insurance that they need to buy a home for. And then you kind of layer on top of that we know that these insurance companies are in the middle of negotiations around regulations at the state level, insurance regulations at the state level. And I have a lot of hope and a lot of faith that our insurance commissioner is trying his best to put in real rules to create a level playing field and make sure that these insurance companies play fair. But these insurance companies are instead trying to
Western, which is, I've been hearing about this for a couple of years from my constituents, in particularly in the unincorporated area, about insurance cancellation, rate increases, and the inability to find insurance altogether. You know, unfortunately, our hands are tied here at the county. We can make this resolution, but as one of the callers says, it's not going to do a lot. But we can only refer them to the state's insurance commissioner.
Yeah.
But I think the elected insurance commissioner is failed in this job. Like the main role of the insurance commissioner is to examine companies that regulate insurance in California that works for California residents. And it hasn't. We've seen more and more cancellations, and as earlier stated, people can't even purchase houses if they can't get the required insurance for mortgages.
Nope.
It took an executive order for the governor to get the insurance company to begin to address this crisis here at the state.
Seems like more of that shit that goes in line with the Vanguard
This
and
crisis didn't happen
Yeah,
overnight.
that's intended. You'll own nothing and be happy.
insure
It's been
you.
festering for years. The fires,
Give your
inflation,
home to
increased
them.
costs,
Mhm.
and reassurance,
And then they can rent it back to
among
you.
other things. But I do think a lot of it has to do not just, it's always easy to blame the big corporation. And you know, they're bad, they want to take all your money, they don't care about you.
It's true.
But I think it's also over-regulation on us, on the state itself. And even in the cost of housing. The cost of housing right now, as we will learn tomorrow in our VMT presentation, the last year we've only were able to
have that here
approve
tomorrow.
or get permits for 57 last year, an entire year in the unincorporated area, only 57.
Maybe.
And
I do.
so imagine it's
Should.
building housing is astronomical here and it's almost out of reach. Imagine if you're insuring somebody to rebuild their house, and what those costs might be, and why their insurance companies are having to raise rates. But the insurance commissioner I know in the past has put caps on those rates. You can only charge so much. Well, look, if you tell a business you're only charge so much and your costs go beyond those caps, you're leaving. And I think that's what's really happening. So there's blame all around. But I do like the fact that you're bringing this forward. I'm going to support this. But I do think we have to look at our own regulatory burdens that make it almost impossible for people to build housing, to have housing, to rebuild housing, and for others to do business here in California. So blaming one entity, I think, isn't fair. But the state and the insurance companies have to come together and find a resolution that works for all Californians. And right now, it's not. And I get it. You want to, stop people or insurance companies from leaving amid, the state changing regulations. Well, I think that the state couldn't do it quick enough, or it needs to go faster.
Man, I can't believe we missed this.
Fire underneath the state as well.
Industry Day, they were talking to all of the NGOs to help.
So thank you for bringing it forward. I'll second that.
Sucks.
Good chance to
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, we're all frustrated. Certainly, my district is borne the brunt of this. But I'd like for you to consider a friendly amendment, and let's do a letter to the governor and to the insurance commissioner explaining why this is important to us. I know it seems silly, but insurance companies generally don't leave markets where they're making money.
It's not going to happen until July, at
One thing
least.
we can count on for corporations is they try to maximize profit. So there's no profit.
Money for the SSP,
40 million people.
for the transfer side.
You have to cover it until they don't have it up.
No, they're gonna not even reward anything until then, but they're taking money from the county to do it.
I'm concerned that
It's weird that doesn't happen.
realize how dire it is, and that perhaps there might be some things that they're sticking to right now that aren't in the best interest of all of us, but they're in the best interest of a special interest that perhaps doesn't have skin in the game. I'm not trying to talk
Come in at this number.
That's what FEMA's giving.
There may be other things going on. So I'd like for you to consider taking an amendment, to have staff write a letter. Essentially, the concern that was brought forward, look, these jobs aren't easy, and I happen to know Carl, our person, he's a good man. I know he's working hard, but let's make sure he has full knowledge of what the impact is to us here in Southern California.
I'm sure happy to take that. I think we have a resolution, so we could adapt the language in the resolution and turn it into a letter that gets sent. Happy, will you second the motion? Happy to accept it there?
Yes, second.
Thank you. Happy to take that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chair Lawson Reamer, second by Supervisor Desmond. Please vote. Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting. We'll now move on to discussion item 27, authorize acceptance of funding from the Federal Emergency Management Agency Shelter and Services Program Grant, authorize competitive procurement for migrant transition day center and waive board policy 2029.
Yep.
We'll turn it over to the county team for presentation.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Vargas and members of the board. The board has continued to support and advocate for sustainable federal funding to ensure a safe.
You want me to look up what?
I don't know who that guy was who was speaking.
Oh.
He was a
Hold on, I'll get it.
Today's presentation will provide an overview of the ongoing regional efforts to support migrants. Then we will provide
Illegals.
an update on stakeholder engagement and the input we received from on a future migrant transition day center. We will close with a request for you to accept Federal Emergency Management Agency or FEMA funding when awarded to the county authorized next steps to establish the new center.
Hmm?
The regional San Diego community is continuously welcomed asylum seeking
No, that's the next one.
fleeing persecution in their home countries. Historically, community organizations have received FEMA Shelter and Services Program funding to provide respite shelter and essential services to the most vulnerable migrants, including women, children, disabled persons, LGBTQ plus individuals. In recent years, the number of asylum seekers released by federal authorities significantly In response, the county convened with local jurisdictions, the state and local government, and local community organizations to collaborate and develop statewide plans to address migrant-related needs. Thereafter, the county and local community organizations studied additional services to meet the needs of migrants within the DOD. All of these efforts have presented thousands of needs managed in San Diego County. Local community organizations continue to provide translational assistance, transportation services, Wi-Fi access, and access to food and hygiene supplies to support the onward travel of migrants to their final destination. I'd like to turn it over now to Barbara Jimenez, the Community Operations Officer for the Department of Homeless Solutions and Local Communities, who will expand on the impact of street policing in our region and other efforts related to today's topic.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald. The U.S.-Mexico border has seen an increase in migrants from humanitarian crisis around the globe. Since mid-September of last year, over 136,000 migrants have been released from CBP custody. This slide provides a monthly breakdown of the total number of asylum seekers that have been released into San Diego County. Although we have seen an upward trend in the number of migrants released, with a peak of over 21,000 releases in December and a low of 16,000 in January, there is some variability which continues to impact federal, state, and local capacities and resources. With the support of the board and congressional delegation, we have been in search for additional funding streams to ensure the San Diego region has the necessary resources to compassionately assist and support migrants passing through and on to their final destination. On March 23rd, the Omnibus Appropriations Bill was signed into law, which provided funding for the FEMA Shelter and Services Program to deliver essential services to migrants released from CBP. On April 12th, FEMA released the 2024 Shelter Services Program allocated notice of funding opportunities and informed eligible recipients, including the County of San Diego, of the potential non-competitive funding allocation of over $19.5 million. Following this notification on April 26th, the Health and Human Services Agency, Department of Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities, also known as ASEC, applied for the funding to support the development of a migrant transition day center.
Illegals.
On April 30th, the board directed staff to move forward with programming efforts to support migrants recently released from CBP while pursuing FEMA funding, and returned to the board on May 21st with a request to appropriate funds from the general fund reserve. Following this board meeting, staff moved quickly to issue a request for information on May 1st to seek input from all stakeholders to determine optimal strategies and to capitalize on the FEMA funding opportunity for a migrant transition.
I still got non-agenda to do.
The county recognizes there are many organizations with the expertise in providing culturally competent humanitarian services to migrants. in order to better understand the needs to operationalize a migrant transition day center in the region. The county held an industry day on May 7th, which was attended by over 40 individuals and representatives from 23 different organizations with extensive experience in serving migrants. All feedback provided by attendees, in addition to 8 organizations who submitted detailed input via email and by net, provided recommendations for operationalizing a trauma-informed and culturally responsive migrant transition day center. Insights and themes from the industry day focused on leveraging resources, avoiding duplication, and leading practices for providing essential services to migrants while prioritizing long-term travel. Additional recommendations included providing multilingual, trauma-informed, and culturally responsive services to migrants swiftly, therefore creating equitable access to information to facilitate onward travel. In addition, input received included a sustainable model that provides essential services and builds on existing infrastructure to maximize resources, highlighting the need for communication, collaboration, and coordination for coordination regional response. Emphasis was made on leveraging local community organizations who have the expertise to operate shelters and serve migrants. Lastly, to capitalize on finite resources, a service delivery model with onward travel at the core was suggested to allow for a short and efficient intake process, which would include triaging transportation to centralized travel hubs and placing resources at key central locations to assist with travel and navigation to their final destination. If approved by the board today, we will develop and issue a competitive procurement at the end of May with proposals due in June and a notice of intent to award in July. The competitive procurement will be informed by the input and recommendations received via the Request for Information Industry Day and parameters outlined by FEMA. Since first learning of the FEMA Shelter and Services Program funding eligibility notice, county staff had further opportunities to meet with FEMA Shelter and Services Program technical assistance staff to learn more about the application and reimbursement process. Upon further review and discussion, appropriating funds from the general fund reserves is not necessary. HHSA will monitor the reimbursement steps closely as the new process gets underway and will quickly elevate any concerns around timeliness of payments. Appropriations for the Migrant Transition Day Center were included in the CAO recommended operational plan change letter based on FEMA revenue. Staff is making the following recommendations for the board's approval. 1. Waive board policy B29. 2. Accept the fiscal year 2024 FEMA Shelter and Services Program allocated funding. And lastly, 3. Authorize the Department of Purchasing and Contracting to issue competitive solicitation for a Migrant Transition Day Center. Pending any questions, this concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Now we have notice of requested to speak on this item. We have 11 requests to speak, 5 in person, and 6 requests to speak by phone. Also note that we received 1 e-comment in opposition. For those that requested to speak on item 27 by phone, please dial in the conference line.
Is it on your sheet? I mean,
provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. All speakers are in opposition. As your name is called, please come forward. I ask you to state your name for the audio record. I invite Mark, Audra, Luke, Consuelo, and Brian Trumbaugh.
Congress.
Okay, now, Consuelo, ask yourself why all of a sudden these migrants are crossing. There's nothing humane about what this government has done. A brief first-hand conversation I had with somebody, and it was at the Terminal 1 at our airport. It was so sad. This lady was from Guatemala, and I was talking to her, and I said, "Why did you come?" I said, "What's your next plan?" She said, "I don't know." I was like, "What do you mean you don't know? You just came?" "Yeah, because the government told me to come. I was told to come." And I'm like, "But what, do you have family? Do you have money?" "No, I don't have family. I don't have money. I left my 2 kids." I'm like, "Oh my God." She's crying. She's in tears. She's lost. She doesn't know what to do. I said, "Listen, don't trust anyone. I'll be back." I didn't get to go back because, quite frankly, I couldn't handle all the stories that I was hearing from these people who were just lost, dazed, and confused, hadn't a fucking clue where they were going to go, had no money, had no plan. They were just told to come. That is sick.
reckless. That is wrong. And yet, we're here, funding. It's disgusting. It's so sad. And to the monkeypox schmuck mocking people who are warning others about the UN agenda, this is it. We're not making shit up. You can look through it. You can order it on Amazon, schmuck. Again, it is just really sad that there are a lot of people covering this story, and there are only a couple who are truly on the front lines. Everybody else, just like everything else, you people are fucking following people who are not actually there. Just like all these people who have like hundreds of thousands of followers, when you got true blue people at the border, like Audra, reporting, and yet they're getting their information actually from her. But you got all these fucking followers just following. As usual.
Mark 27. This is opening our border to form the North American Union, where we have no rights leading to global domination. See these titles. These are mainstream news articles. I told Chair Nora that people would be murdered if she did not control the border. And now we see illegal immigrant Eduardo Sarabia charged with forcible rape of 2 women, possibly many more. A 14-year-old girl raped. Lake and Riley murdered. 4 migrants attacking New York police. Children being sex trafficked, and 77,000 fentanyl deaths in 2023. There is no investigative or law enforcement people involved in vetting relatives. The vetting process is practically non-existent. Only 4 to 6% of migrant children's sponsors' homes are ever seen, and we cannot verify if the sponsor is even the one answering the follow-up call. 85,000 sponsors are not answering the follow-up calls. Many children are trafficked for slave labor or prostitution. The system is overwhelmed, so they rush getting the kids out. Housing cannot be solved without stopping the Federal Reserve from causing inflation. Abbey's Core can 3D print a solid row of 10 by 40-foot homes all the way across the San Diego's 90-mile southern border, securing it and providing low-income housing for 12,000 homeless citizens for about $100 million in 2 years. Making 2/3 of rents free instead of taxpayer subsidized. For a little more, you could print the back wall 20 feet high with a razor sharp top and bulletproof 2-inch steel and back with cheap motion sensors and cameras to alert